everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. So my guest today is a good friend of mine who's been on our screens and on our radios for, I think, over a decade. We'll get into that. She's led...
2 decades.
Excuse me. 2 decades. She has led one of the most fascinating lives in her short 40 years on this planet, and there is so much I want to talk to her about today. Because quite frankly, she's been through a hell of a lot, especially with her body. And she's had a hell of a lot of experiences that so many of my clients, followers and listeners can really relate to. But she also has a phenomenal perspective on things. And she's got the most incredible ability to reframe things, which as a coach, I really admire and respect in people. I'm very excited to welcome onto the podcast Zoe Hardman.
Yay!
Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're busy and you're
so
really
far away from me.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? I feel like you're really stretching yourself thin just to come here today and do it, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No, of course.
You.
So 2 decades.
Yeah, 2 decades. I love that.
I believe that.
I did my first TV show when I was 21, so...
That's mad. What was the first TV show?
Oh, God.
What was it?
Do you remember Playing It Straight?
Oh my God, I love Playing It Straight. God, now, can you imagine?
It wouldn't have been allowed.
It wouldn't have been allowed.
The problem is, well, I guess not the problem, but I think the joy of it was that it was so innocent.
Yeah, of course.
It was 2005. Big Brother had only just been going. It was sort of scripted drama.
Yeah.
It was really funny. June Sarpong was the presenter, and it was just the most wonderfully camp and brilliant thing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was. I remember absolutely loving it. Like, these are the days when, like, is this when like Shipwreck started?
Yeah.
I feel like Shipwreck was the first UK reality TV show ever.
Yeah, so they all sort of kicked off, didn't they, in sort of 2000, and it was just a really brilliant time of telly where like 5 million people tuned in every Friday night to watch it.
Isn't that mad?
It's
now,
crazy.
Like, no one's watching TV anymore.
I know.
Every time I say it to my family, they're like, "No, you're wrong." I'm like, "Oh, touched a nerve." I'm like, "Okay, everyone's watching TV." Okay, I should give context here. Zoe is Paul Duran Jones, who we call Dozza, his wife, and he's James's best friend, and Dozza is the godfather to our daughter Bodhi.
Yeah, we're weird family.
Yeah.
We're a weird family. The boys have known each other since they were 15 years old. They both rocked up to Wellington together, didn't they?
Yeah,
And then
hated each other.
And then just kept each other close for the rest of their lives.
He's the only person James speaks to every day.
I know.
It's really cute.
I know. Even in bed last night when me and Dozza had an argument and he wasn't even talking to me, the phone rang and he was like, "All right, bestie." And I was like, "Oh, you talk to him, but you won't talk to me."
No, he does that to me. James does that to me. I feel like it's a way to like freeze us out. Like James and I will have an argument and he'll be like, I'm just going to go outside and call Dozza, and then I'm seeing him at the back of the garden like
howling with laughter.
Fuck you. They drive me mad. That's what best mates do. So how was his birthday in Ibiza?
It was lovely. I mean, you know me. Ibiza is my special happy place.
Yeah.
And so I want to go there all the time.
Got married there?
Got married there. We got married there 5-6 years ago. And then I just try and go at any opportunity that is available in the diary. I just go, right, Ibiza for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So what was really funny, to everyone listening, I invited Chloe and Task to come, and I thought it'd be really lovely for the 4 of us to have some time together. Obviously, Chloe, you're working, so you couldn't do it. And then at that point, I thought James would go,
"Oh no, I'm out.
Oh, I'm not coming." And he literally was like, "I've booked my flights." And I was like, "What? The 3 of us are going? That's not what I wanted."
No, this is what he does though. So since James retired, he's just turned into like such a party boy. Any excuse for a party. I was at Chiltern Firehouse with him and Truzy last week, 2 of our friends. I promise we'll get on to more podcasty stuff, but this is quite a funny story. We're basically at like a hotspot in London, and they've both got a pint in front of them. And I go for a wee with Bodhi, change her nappy, come back up, and he's like, "So I'm going to go to Tring with Truzy to have a beer." I was like, "You're literally sat in Chiltern Firehouse with a beer in front of you right now." And he was like, "Yeah, but we're just going to go somewhere different." I was like, "Okay then, bye."
I heard about that.
Very odd behaviour, but this is what I mean. He is just...
But you know what he delivered? He turned up, you know...
He's the best. He's the best person to go on a night out with.
Yeah, and it was really... He kept ordering bottles of Casal Azul.
Class Azul. Loves it.
The tequila. I hate tequila. By the end of it, I was like, another bottle, let's go.
Yeah, but that's not just any tequila. That's the best tequila.
It's very bougie.
It's very bougie.
I started drinking it on its own, and he was like, "Stop. You have to have it with orange."
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay.
Okay. And cinnamon. Did he do the orange and cinnamon thing?
No.
It's a whole thing. Okay, right. We will move on because people listening are like, "Shut the fuck up and get on with it." So, okay. As I said, there's so much I want to talk to you about today. Really an avalanche of stuff. I suppose, and we'll start from the beginning. Tell me about your kind of childhood and adolescence, specifically in the context of body image and kind of how it developed as you grew. Because I knew that by the time you got into your 20s, it was something that you started to really struggle with.
Yeah, I had a really, really positive start in life when it came to body image. You know, we were a really active family. Sport was a massive part of my life. You know, I loved playing it at school. I was in, you know, I used to play county tennis, county hockey, like netball. Everything revolved around sport. Yeah. Athletics, running, and I loved it. And I never had a problem with eating. I had a really great relationship with my parents. You know, I grew up with. I'd like to start off this conversation by saying that I grew up with a model. My mum was a really successful model in the 60s, and you know, very beautiful, and a lot of her life was based around how she looked. Yeah. And a lot of her hang-ups came from that generation of women who were supposed to be seen and not heard, and were always supposed to look immaculate. Yeah. And there was a lot of language that was drip-fed into the family, not her fault. Yeah. But was just product of her environment and what she was programmed to say. So I think on reflection, there was quite a lot of those messages coming that, you know, it wasn't necessarily exercise to be healthy. It was more like, you know, to be thin. And, you know, by the time I hit sort of 14, 15 and started going through puberty properly, my body started changing. And I know that my mum struggled in a way with our changing bodies and how to talk to us about that. I know she was trying her hardest, but it wasn't landing particularly well. And by the time I was 21 and had finished doing Playing It Straight, 22, I developed a massive eating disorder. Yeah. I mean, it happened almost instantly within the time that I came back from filming and the time that we were waiting for the show to hit Channel 4, I had a period of probably 8 or 9 months where I just became obsessed with what I looked like, you know, calories, intake, going to the gym twice a day. It was like this horrendous devil that had appeared out of nowhere, and it was all consuming. And it happened so fast. From going from somebody that had no hang-ups and no body issues, I was so I mean, on that show, you watch it back, and I sometimes watch it back and think, wow, I was really confident, I was really settled in my own skin. I really liked the way that I looked.
What was the flip then? Was it that you knew that you were going to be on TV, that it was going to come out? Like, why then?
I think the pressure of waiting for the show to come on. Yeah. And, you know, I was a healthy size 10. Yeah. I knew that in terms of TV terms, that was probably, you know, actually, I think things are very different now, but back in the day, maybe I thought wrongly that I was going to be too big and that people were going to comment. And then as soon as the show came out, I went onto those forums and started reading people's comments, and it was like, she's really plump, why did they choose her, god, she's ugly, you know, I mean, one girl was like, oh, she's such a fatty. I remember it vividly, and I said, a fatty? I was a size 10. Wow. It's awful. Awful. And it really landed.
I'm actually, you know what, you forget, of course, human nature has always been how it's always been, but I think now, obviously, with the rise of social media, and now it's so much more visible that these poisonous things get thrown out there about people on TV, about everyone. I mean, you kind of think that back then it didn't happen, but of course it did. I mean, my parents were getting poison pen letters in the 80s. Oh my God. I mean, saying all of this stuff to them then. So, okay,
that's
so then
horrendous.
That started happening. Yeah. How did you wade through it, and how did you come out the other side? How long did that take you? Do you still struggle with it now? Like, how is the journey kind of, I guess, culminating for you?
I mean, I think it's really important to say here that it got really bad before it got better.
Of course,
but it did get better, and that's a message that when I talk about my anorexia, that is a message that I really want to, you know, to scream loudly, because a lot of people that have, you know, restricted food, they feel there's no way out of it. They feel like it's a prison sentence that they're not going to be able to get out of, and it 100% is. But for a long time, the addictiveness of going to the gym and under eating and, you know, scooting past the kitchen to like make sure that I got up to my bedroom before I even looked in the fridge, all those things were my day-to-day. Normal. You know, like they became habitual. So it became, and like writing food diaries, and it all became really scary. I think the turning point for me was I hadn't had a period for 5 years. I was masking my illness quite well, actually, because I was so lean. So people were like, well, she's just really, really lean.
Yeah, that's
they didn't really know what was going on internally. Yeah. And that was, you know, the fact that I wasn't menstruating and that I wasn't able to keep a relationship, and it was really fucked up for a long time. Yeah. The turning point was actually meeting somebody, got to give him a shout out, Ryan, the lovely Ryan, who basically caught me at the end, or the point that I was sort of trying to muddle my way out of it. I'd been to the doctor said to me, do you want to have children? And I said, yeah, of course I do. And she went, it's never going to happen if you carry on doing what you're doing to your body.
Yeah.
And I was down to sort of 6.5 stone at this point,
Wow.
and my body fat was like 3% or something ridiculous. And so she was like, you have to stop, and we're going to help you we're going to give you some help, and we're going to send you in the right direction. And then I met Ryan. Ryan said to me, you know, why don't you consider going to OA? And I remember thinking, why would I go to Overeaters Anonymous? Like, I'm anorexic. I starve myself with food. All the while, my knees were giving up because I was doing so much running. I was running sort of 70 kilometres a week at this point. Wow. So by this point, I'd had 3 arthroscopies. So and the arthroscopies, having the operations were also a strange hole for me to be in, because I obviously couldn't then exercise. So the anorexia got worse. Yeah. So I was so fucked. I was so messed up. And my parents weren't in England. They weren't living in the country. So I really didn't have anybody. Anyway, Ryan said to me, why don't you go to Overeaters Anonymous? And I remember walking in the room and thinking, oh my gosh, there's going to be loads of people there that are binge eaters. Yeah. And suddenly I thought, we're all in this place together. Whether you restrict food or you go and eat and you overeat, it is all about control. Yeah. And suddenly these people understood what I was doing. They were walking to the fridge at night and binging, and I was walking away from the fridge and restricting. Yeah. It makes me feel really emotional, because it is a really scary, scary place to be. Something that's supposed to come so naturally, for it to get that bad. And I don't feel ashamed, but I do think, fuck, like, how did I let it get that bad?
But this is the thing, though, isn't it? You do get to a point with any mental health thing, and I had it with generalised anxiety disorder at points where you feel like, this is never going to get better. Yeah. Like, I cannot see a way out of it. This is going to be the way that I live my life. And you just kind of almost accept this kind of doom and gloom and pain, and you sit in it. But I presume, given what you're saying, that the OA classes really helped, and this guy Ryan kind of helped kind of shepherd you out of it. Yeah. But I think as well, like, it was getting to a point where you're probably like, my body's giving up, and I need to make a choice now. So then, how was your road to recovery?
Long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really long. Yeah. Really, really up and down. And it was baby steps for me, like real baby steps, as in just making sure that my calories were coming up, that I started to be able to be in environments where I could be around food. Yeah. He had this wonderful family. Anita, his mum, is still a really special person in my life, actually. And, you know, they had these big Friday night dinners, and I suddenly just thought I felt alive again, you know? And even though there were occasions where I'd shut the door and think, oh, take a deep breath, like, it's okay, you can handle these situations. Because I remember I was avoiding all meals, meal times, dinners. I'd happily go out for drinks, but I'd never want to sit down and have a meal in front of anybody. So these were all firsts again that I had to teach myself to do, and just remembering what life is there for, which is to enjoy it. And so he was instrumental. The classes were incredible. And it took me, you know, I guess by the time I was sort of 28, 29, I was out and out the other side. Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself having hard days where you struggle with it now? Much like I have hard days with anxiety every now and again, but the majority of the time I'm absolutely fine. Do you ever have days where you're like, oh, or you've put it in a box, it's behind you?
The only time it happened to me, weirdly, was when I was pregnant again.
Really? Well, that's just you lose all control over your body. Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes total sense.
People kept going like, what are you worried about? Like, you're growing a human. And I was like, look at me. Look at the size of me.
You told me this, actually. You told me where were we? Somewhere in Spain. Yeah. And we're on some jetty somewhere. Yeah. And I was saying how great your breasts look.
Oh my God, my boobs. I've got a whole folder of my pregnancy boobs.
So his pregnancy boobs are the best boobs I've ever seen in my life, ever.
I was obsessed with them.
Everyone was obsessed with them. James was like, oh my God, where do I look? I was like, it was amazing. And you were like, thanks, but I'm really struggling. And I was like, well, I think that's pretty normal. Like, no matter what you're like, to lose control of your body like that, it's quite overwhelming.
A lot more people need to have this conversation. Yeah. That, yes, of course, you're growing a human, and wow, pat ourselves on the back, we're doing an incredible thing. But also, let's not forget that for somebody that likes to look a certain way and feel a certain way, more importantly,
much more importantly,
for that to suddenly completely change, you know, I was just gaining weight, and I had to really do a lot of standing in front of the mirror and just being like, this is okay. This is okay. I'm pregnant.
I
Here's
wanted
my
this.
baby. I wanted this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will get back to where I feel really great again after in time. And I did it in a really healthy way. So in answer to your question, no, I don't think that not day to day. It's not a thing. But I do like to exercise, look after myself and eat really well.
Oh, you do. And we're going to get onto that because there's so much, like I said, a literal avalanche of stuff. I've never had such ease of writing questions for a guest I've ever had on the podcast, ever.
Oh.
I was just like, this has happened. There's so many people who can relate, and just hearing you talk open and honestly, which we're talking in the car about it, like you are, I think you're just so open and honest and easy to talk to that you, even without trying, help so many people, and women specifically. You've gone through everything with your body. So let's move on from that period of your life. Let's talk about when we first met, when you were, I think at that point you were unsure, but you were certainly concerned about potentially going through the early menopause.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what started happening, your signs and symptoms, and kind of how you managed what must have been quite a scary time for you?
Yeah. So I'd never been the person that was having the heavy periods for days and days on end. My periods were always quite light.
Yeah.
And they were always between sort of 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
So start with that. After the kids, rewind. I just met Doz, so it was 2015. My sister was married, 2015. So what was that? 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
My sister had just got married. She came off the pill. She was trying to have a baby with her then husband Tom, and then she started developing all these awful symptoms. You know, headaches, brain fog.
Yeah.
You name it, she had it. Night sweats. It was horrendous for her. And she was ringing me up going, I must be pregnant. And I said, why? She goes, I just feel so weird. I don't feel well. I must be pregnant.
Yeah.
Remember this?
Yeah.
And me and my mum were saying, this doesn't sound like she's pregnant. This sounds like something else. So she went to see the doctor. They started doing tests. There was a hormone that was present in her blood, which it either means you have a brain tumour or it means that you're going into early menopause or going into menopause. And at the time, so then they diagnosed.
I didn't know this.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
They diagnosed her with a brain tumour. We went into panic. They were like, you're too young. You're 33 years old. You can't be going into menopause. It can't happen. Even the doctor specialist saying this to her, and she was like, feel like I've got brain tumor. Like, it was a horrendous time. Anyway, kept banging the door down.
So irresponsible to diagnose someone like
without even having a scan.
It's so irresponsible.
I know.
Oh, this reminds me of my cervical cancer scare. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Right? I mean,
It's just like, you're so lazy.
Yeah, do a scan first before you're...
My life. Like, what are you talking... Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so we went through all of that with her. And then, obviously, as the months went on, it wasn't a brain tumour. It was menopause. And the pill, she'd been taking the estrogen that she was taking in her pill, her contraceptive pill, had been masking her menopause.
Yeah.
They think it could have been for up to 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So she'd been on the pill since she was 16.
So
anyway, it left her completely infertile. So my poor sister never got to have her children. And when this was going on, she was ringing me up saying, look, this is hereditary. We know that mum's gone through it. We know that granny went through it. This will be happening to you. I hadn't had my kids at this point. I'd only just met Dozza. We were 6 months into it.
This is when we first met.
Yeah.
And I remember having this
conversation. Because you just met James.
Yeah.
Like this...
I met James like around the same time, pretty much around the same time. And I remember having this conversation with you and you being like, I could see the concern on your face, but you didn't know.
Yeah.
But now we know more. So carry on. So continue.
Yeah. Cut a long story short, I decided to go and have my fertility tested. I had my AMH levels and my FSH levels tested. Yeah. AMH was through the floor. I was told that I'd never have children naturally. And I just was just like, I can't, oh my God, I've missed the boat.
This is happening.
I've met the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. I knew instantly, but it's too late for me. So it was, I've said it before, but it felt like a real ticking time bomb. It was like, you've got to get on with this now.
Yeah.
I tried to freeze my eggs. It didn't work. I tell you what, that was probably the saddest 2 months of my life, watching eggs growing. Next time I went to the scan, they died, growing,
that must have been incredibly hard.
I just thought, oh my God, I'm not. It's so sad. It was just so sad. Anyway, there was a happy ending because Dozza turned around to me and said, right, sod this. let's just get shagging.
Yeah, because this is what's so
He was
good
like,
about
I can
Dawes.
get women pregnant when I look at them.
Dawes, obviously he said that. But this is the thing. Dawes loves kids. He already had a daughter from a previous relationship. A fantastic dad, in a way that you couldn't have found a better partner to be like, I'm in a rush, instead of one of those guys like, whoa, babe, slow down. He was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go.
Do it.
How perfect. You guys were you're always soulmates. Anyway, so carry on.
Yeah.
So he was like, let's get shagging.
He just said, let's get
pregnant.
shagging. This was in the September. And I was thinking, it's never going to happen. The specialist told me I won't get pregnant. I thought, body failing me, or I failed my body.
Got this strong sperm.
Yeah, the strong sperm.
Yeah.
So we just did a load of shagging, legs above the head. And then by the January, pregnant.
I mean, amazing.
Couldn't believe it. Can't believe it. Just, yeah, so lucky. And so many people don't manage to have it. So I feel incredibly, incredibly lucky.
So you got pregnant while you were kind of going through early menopause?
Yeah, I hadn't started going into early menopause.
But it was
I had no
just-
symptoms.
no.
No, I had no symptoms at that point. But,
Okay.
but my periods were light.
There
so
were certain kind of
there wasn't many eggs
telltale
left.
things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then, so this was Luna.
This was with Luna.
Yeah, and then Kit.
We got married in Ibiza. We went out to DC10 one night. Things got a little bit loose. And then we
DC10? Excuse me?
went back home. Whoopsie. No contraception. Pregnant again.
Yeah, but also brilliant.
How lucky. And then we had little Kit.
Thank you, DC10.
Thank you, DC10.
You're the only fertile people in the whole of DC10. It's amazing. Okay,
And sober enough to be able to have sex at the end of the night.
I know, I can't believe he managed it. Well done,
Well
Dawes.
done, Dawes.
Well done, Dawes.
So, yeah. And I know that that's not a lot of people's reality listening. So I really do think about that every single day, actually. And then...
Yeah, but this is your experience. And I want to be clear, like, whenever I have a guest on that's not like, I don't know, a specialist. Well, you know, we have kind of specialists in weightlifting and we have doctors on a lot. Like, Zoe's here to tell her experience of things. So I don't ever want you to feel like, oh God, I know this isn't everyone else's experience. That's fine. This is yours.
Okay,
That's
thanks
fine.
for saying that,
That's
Chloe.
fair.
Thank you. And then, yeah, so it was probably about nearly about a year after Kit was born. That's when I was like sledgehammered. And
Really?
that is when all of my symptoms started. My periods were doing really crazy things, as in I was having period normal 28 days, then it was 22 days, then it was 14 days, then I was having bleeds constantly, then I didn't have a bleed for like 53 days. And it wasn't just that. I mean, I was so depressed, I can't tell you. I barely could get out of bed every day. I wasn't sleeping. My headaches were terrible. Well, the worst thing for me was being a communicator, you know, trying to go in and do live radio and suffering major panic attacks in the studio because
Really?
I was in the middle of links. I don't script my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an orator.
You've been doing it for a while.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah.
And then just freezing and thinking, I've got no idea what word I'm trying to say. I've got no idea where I was going.
Yeah.
I had to explain on air loads of times. Like I'd make a joke and go, oh, I need another coffee, and laugh it off and try and get into a song without completely dying.
Yeah.
And I sat down with Heart and said, look, I don't know what's going on. I'm really concerned for my mind, but I can't find the words. Can you bear with me? And they were like, of course, go and
Can I
have your
just
test.
say as well, I think people don't realise like how scary it is, because I had it in pregnancy very, very, very badly. I couldn't remember, and be in the middle of a sentence and I'd be on a live with clients. Again, it's my job. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And you literally don't know what the next word is. You don't know what you're saying. And you know everyone's sat there listening to you or like watching you, and you can't pull a word out. And when it happens day after day after day, you just want to fall apart because you don't, it has such an impact. And Zoe, you're completely right. Like when it's your communication and that's your job and that's also who you are at your core, like you're a communicator, it's like, it's horrifying. It's really scary.
55,000 women every single year feel they need to leave their jobs because of going into menopause, because of their menopause. 55,000 women. It is horrendous.
I think, yeah, it's so impactful. Anyway, so carry on. So you sat down with Heart and you said, look, I'm really sorry, there's something going on.
There's
and
something
I don't know
going
what it
on. I
is."
need to do some investigating.
Yeah.
Please get around me. I really need you guys. They were incredible.
Yeah.
Dozza was amazing. But Dozza said to me, look, this can't go on any longer because
Yeah.
this isn't really a marriage.
Did it have a big impact on the marriage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. Because, you know, I didn't feel, my body felt like a sort of dried up, I don't know, piece of fruit.
Yeah.
That's the way to describe it, really.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not fully functioning.
my hair was falling out. My eyes were dry. I couldn't get my thirst. I just couldn't drink enough water.
Yeah.
I had no libido.
Yeah.
I mean, zero.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ever have sex. I just didn't want to do
Again,
it.
for Zoe, very out of
Yeah, this is really not me, guys.
I like to talk and shag. Okay?
And maybe a bit of dancing.
Yeah, maybe a bit of dancing.
A bit of dancing. So that was really difficult for me. That was also like someone had taken away a limb. You know, my sexual self is such a big part of me. And for me not want to have sex with my husband, who I fancy, was just like, I just couldn't get my head around it. Anyway, then we lost Caroline, which was just like another blow.
God, I didn't realise that happened when you were going through that. That must have been... I didn't realise that those two things synced up when you were already feeling that low. That must have been incredibly hard.
It was in the February 2020, and by the end of the month, beginning of March, just before her funeral, I got diagnosed with the early menopause and put on HRT. And my doctor was amazing. My doctor rung me and said, look, we've done your bloods over 3 months. Yeah, this is it. We need to get you onto it straight away. She said, come and pick them up tomorrow. And then the day after was Caroline's goodbye. So that was like a really... And then we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, for you, lockdown. I was kind of okay in lockdown, but for you, that must have been really hard. So you really went through it. So you just touched on it there about the HRT. Talk to me about HRT and you and the process of it. Because I know a lot of my clients are pre and postnatal, they're pre and postmenopausal. And a lot of them really struggle with HRT if they're lucky enough to be able to take it. Yes. They really struggle to be able to find that sweet spot. So much so that I'd say it's not 50%, but a significant percentage of them just walk away from it altogether. And I'm always at pains to be like, obviously it's your body, it's your choice, but please keep trying. Yeah. What's your experience with HRT and what would you say to women who want to know more about that approach?
Great question, Chloe.
Thanks, so.
What an interviewer. What a great question. Great question, because it's definitely supplementy. So I started off taking basically 2 weeks of estrogen and then 2 weeks of like progesterone. Yeah. I was really progesterone sensitive. So during that period, my boobs would go lumpy. I would get really bad headaches because I was taking it orally. It wasn't localized enough and my whole body was being really strange. Yeah. I did that for like nearly a year and a half until I was like, oh God, this is awful. And actually my symptoms started to come back as well. So I've ditched the oral HRT. I then went to see an amazing, amazing woman called Dr. Naomi Porter, and she is Lisa Snowden's doctor. Oh, nice. And she just said, look, get a consultation in with her. I thought I'd bite the bullet and pay the money because actually you need
a specialist. Life.
Yeah. It was day to day. I needed the help. And she said, right, I just told her everything that was going on and she said, right, let's get you on the patches. So I'm on Estradot, 100 milligrams I take now in the patches. I put them on my bum, change the size. You've seen Davina doing the videos.
Yeah. Davina's now like, I don't know, the patron saint of the menopause.
Isn't she?
I mean, it's brilliant. She's helping women feel normal. And that's what's so important. That's what you're doing too. Yeah. So go on, so you change your butt.
Change your butt cheek. Change my butt cheek. And then I had the Mirena coil fitted. Yes. Which a lot of people are freaked out about having, but then I'd already had done childbirth and they were worried about the pain. And I was like, dude,
it's nothing compared to the pain of menopause.
The pain of childbirth.
The pain of childbirth. Well, I wouldn't know. I was emergency C-section, epidural the second I went in, the whole thing. So
but
I was
you still know the recovery and like how painful that is. You know,
oh my God, even just sitting up after a C-section is another joke. Yeah, but it's like I've had the coil. It's like 5 seconds of pain versus like years of ease. Do you know what I mean? Just put up with it. Just grin and bear it.
It's just amazing because it's so localised. So it's localised to my womb. Yeah. That's where it is. So I just don't get any other sensitivity to it, which is amazing. So thankfully, luckily, I'm in a really great place. I would say to people that are listening that have tried it and they're not getting on with it to switch it up.
Yes, that's 100% it. If it's not working, change it. Yeah.
They've got amazing pumps, gels, creams. You know, obviously the coil that I'm talking about, the patches. You can try the oral HRT.
Didn't work for you.
Didn't work for me. It might work for other people. Yeah. My mum was on oral HRT for 40 years and got a breast cancer diagnosis last year. Wow. So that we all went into, you know, a bit of a state of shock about that. Yeah. She says she should have come off it a long time ago because her tumour was related to the estrogen that she was taking. It was an estrogen-fed tumour. So I know that there will come a period where I will have to come off it. Yeah. But at the moment, I'm 40. I can't have any more joint pain. I'm doing it for joint pain. I'm doing it for like body fluidity. I just can't. I need it. It's really also really, really bad if we don't have estrogen at my age.
Oh, 100%. No. I am really pro HRT all the way. Although I find it interesting that your mum had a breast cancer diagnosis. And so your doctors basically said to you, you can stay on it for the time being, but we're monitoring it and we're going to monitor you. you.
Yeah, I'll be fine for the next 10 or so years.
That's really interesting. And is your sister on it as well? The same HRT that you're on?
No, I think she does the gel, actually, or the pumps.
Just different strokes for different folks.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, okay, so we'll move away from this in a second, but just to end on this, because so many women can relate to it, and I know, given how many of my clients are going through it now, do you have any advice for women who are going through early menopause, which is quite a traumatic thing to go through? Any words of comfort or wisdom, anything you would say to them having gone through it yourself?
Firstly, I really, really sympathise, and you're not alone. Yeah. Please reach out to me anytime, day or night, in the DMs, because I always want to have a chat with you. Secondly, please talk to your partner, your friends, family, talk to your work and explain to them what's going on. Thirdly, please bang the door down at your GP. Just keep going back because they might say to you, oh, well, you're probably just tired, or you've got other things going on in your life, or it might be a bit of mental health issues. No. If you know your body, you know what's going on, really listen to your body, look at what your body's doing, look at what your menstrual cycle's doing, write everything down, and just demand, if you're in a situation where you can take HRT and you want to try it, just keep going for it. Keep going for it. Yeah. And because you know what? You don't want to get fobbed off. And that's when you start getting to a really dark place with it.
It's interesting how many clients of mine, especially, they didn't even think about HRT. They didn't even think about symptom relief. They don't even go down. And again, like, great, you and Davina and the menopause doctor, although I know there's some controversy around her at the moment, but just shining a light on it and being like, if you are viable, which is a big if, because there's reasons why you might not be able to, it will change your life. Like, it will change, or at least a significant period of your life. I definitely fly the flag for it.
Also, I think it's important to supplement it with, I take collagen, Jenny Faulkner's Collo. I take that every day. Although doctors say to me, oh, well, they haven't done any, there's no research to, and I said, oh, fuck you. Yeah, but it's working for me.
Yeah, it's working for me. I'll take it.
Exactly. Vitamin B6 I take. Acupuncture is really great for it. Reflexology. So there's definitely things you can do to support it.
Acupuncture's game changing,
isn't it?
I mean, I had it postnatally with my C-section recovery. It's the only, I think it's the reason why I don't have the quote unquote C-section pouch. I think it's the only reason why. Really? And my recovery just went from 0 to 100 in the 4 weeks that I was getting acupuncture twice a week. It's mad.
Do you know what? It's really interesting because apart from Doz's super sperm, I think that acupuncture is the reason I got pregnant so quickly.
A lot of people say that, and a lot of people say that they were in danger of having a breech baby, and the acupuncture turned the baby. It's the last thing they tried. Yeah. It's really interesting. If you look at the statistics behind it, anecdotally it works. Now, I don't know if that's psychological, or I don't know if it's physiological, or maybe it's both. But if you look at the statistics behind it, it works. There's just no real medical evidence behind it. But it's fascinating. It works, guys.
Listen to us, guys.
It works for us. Yeah, we know everything. We're professional doctors, okay? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Symprove, a science-backed water-based supplement containing billions of live and active bacteria that support the gut. The podcast loves to discuss all things gut health, and Symprove are here to support these conversations. I've actually been taking Symprove for years now. It's a staple of my morning routine, helping support my overall gut health and function. It's such an important part of my routine. I even take it on holiday with me to ensure that I'm supporting my gut health, which we all know can do strange things when traveling and eating different foods. Symprove is a non-dairy food supplement proven to deliver live and active bacteria straight to the gut, so it can truly have an impact. 9 out of 10 customers report feeling a beneficial difference after taking Symprove and continue to take it daily. Symprove are offering a 50% discount on your first 3-month subscription. Use code BODCAST50, that's BODCAST50, to order yours today. Visit Symprove.com and use code BODCAST50 for 50% off your first 3-month subscription. Okay, so I want to move on to kind of your more recent years, pre the knee issue, which again I'm going to ask you about.
Oh, God.
And literally you tick every box for my audience, injury, recovery, menopause, pre and postnatal. It's so interesting.
I am fun, guys.
I know, I told you, her body has gone through the ringer. And man alive, do you look good now. I mean, honestly, you clearly have taken some really hard kind of curveballs that have been thrown at you. And you've really worked hard on both kind of your mental health and your physical health to get to where you are now, because you've never looked better. but in everything, like just your smile, the way you talk.
I feel good.
You look
happy.
Good. You look happy, and it radiates off of you. And I think that's also really a positive thing to put to the audience, is that you can go through these things and you can come out the other side of them, and you can look like Zoe, probably not, but you can get to a really happy, the kind of place that she's in, which is, honestly, you radiate confidence and positivity and warmth.
I said this, thank you for saying that, but the other day, I feel like, I don't know if you ever get to points in your life, maybe it's turning 40, but maybe it's, I've lost my dad, my mum has just coming out the back of breast cancer, my marriage was on the rocks last year, I've had this major ski accident, which I will talk about, but like, I've got these beautiful children, and they are my absolute heartbeat, and I feel quite emotional about life, because I actually don't know when it's going to be over. And it sounds like I'm saying it as a really it's not a morbid thing. It's more like I wake up every day now and I feel like life is there for me to go out and get it, and I want to appreciate every moment that I have left on this planet, especially with my amazing three, who and obviously Doza, same, but these three incredible humans, they just, I don't know, they're just everything. It's my biggest achievement. So I don't want to waste a moment feeling sad, or yes, things are going to come up. And I'm all about, embracing if you do have the tears and you do have down days, absolutely. But generally, trying to be positive now, because it has been a tricky time.
Because when you go through so many hard times and succession, and even like, I remember that when Caroline, wasn't here anymore, and I remember the impact that had on our social group, and how everyone just kind of went into this deep grey lull. Yeah. Even something like that, and everything that you've been through, if you're lucky enough to come out the other side of it, the silver lining is that often you're like, okay, every day, and it sounds so cheesy, and I'm fully aware of that, but every day is for me to make the most out of it.
So true.
I feel good. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I'm going to embrace this time, because as you say, you never know when that's going to change. You never know when life's going to throw you another curveball, and then you will have wasted, the kind of happy, healthy years you had ruminating on what happened in the past. You've got to use those years to live in the present. And it's
so true. And Chloe, I know that you and James live this life, but sometimes, we get the kids to bed, and I'm sure you get Bodhi to bed, and you probably should go to bed. And Doza and I sit in the garden, in the summer months, and we'll like drink our vodka lime sodas, we'll put the music on, and we start dancing, and suddenly it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
And you're like, oh dear.
We're like, oh shit, we fucked that. We've got to get to work.
That's the thing. I knew when I went to Ibiza for the hen do in the weekend, I knew that if I posted about it, I'd probably get some shit from people being like, you have a baby at home. Of course I did. Who's with the baby dinner? And I was like, you know what? I am a mother, and that is the biggest role in my life, of course. Now, I was recently saying to someone, that's why I'm not writing the 5th book that I've been offered, even though that's such... I feel like I'm really not taking the bull by the horns and progressing my career by writing a 5th book right now. But if I do that, not only will I suffer, as a consequence of that, Bodhi will suffer. There's only so much I can do.
Yeah.
And I'm just a really big believer in, I am a mother, but I have other things going on, and she can still be the priority in my life while I'm doing something else. It's totally doable.
Chloe, if you look at your pie chart of life, okay, so for a long, long time, I would imagine that it was basically 50% work, 50% you and James, right? Yeah. And maybe more recently, it's 50% Bodhi, 50% work. James might get...
James is an Ibiza DJ. He's fine. He can handle himself.
You are not programmed, and you don't deserve to live that life. No. You have got so many other wonderful things that you can do with your life, and you have to go out there and embrace them. 100%. There's all your self-care stuff, the training for yourself, hanging out with your friends. Like, just because you are a mother doesn't mean that is your only
everything
role.
else is obliterated. I know. And I think it's really interesting how many people, we're talking about the trolling when you did Playing It Straight, how many people, and I don't even know if they really believe it themselves, or if this is just what they do and this is how they get their kicks, are like, that now you're a mum, that's it. It's like, that's really not it. There's a lot more to life, and I want her to see there's so much more to life. I want her to grow up like, Mum, I want to go out with my friends. I want her to grow up saying like, Mum, I want to try out this dance class or whatever. I want her to realise there's more to life than just sitting at home with me and James, which, I mean,
it is quite fun though, sitting at home with you and James.
I know. James and I are so much fun. Okay, right, so we'll move on to recent years, and I will get onto the knee, but let's just take that out of it for the time being. I feel like in recent years, you've gotten really into your health and fitness, and I feel like your training has progressed from what I've seen on social media. I mean, I don't train with you, although we should definitely do that.
Yes.
But so talk to me about your training, because I feel like you have really progressed with it, and what did it start to look like before the knee situation?
Oh my God, I love training.
Yeah, I know.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I get such a kick out of it. I love it because not only is it just my time, so that also makes me happy because no one can get at me. I always make sure that I leave my phone alone and I'm not on my WhatsApp. It's just me with me.
I love it,
but also, I love setting goals. I love seeing progression in my strength. I love all the facets to it, like my weight training.
Yeah, because that's
cardio.
what I feel like you started doing like way more of, and I'm so into it.
Do you know what? I think maybe I was doing it, but not recording it. Maybe
now you're
it.
like, am I even working out if I don't put it on social media?
I've always loved the balance between doing HIIT and cardio and adding in the weight training element. I really feel like, especially as women, we've got to be really strong in mind, strong in body. Yeah. And so I love the way that my body
going
changes.
Through like early menopause, weightlifting is pivotal to your body at this point. I mean, it's gonna
stops all the sagging, all the elasticity. I can't wait to get my tits done because I'm like, I've been left with these
that's
now.
Having kids and breastfeeding, I don't even want.
I'm not putting up with it.
To my breast. I'm not doing it. I'm going to get surgery.
I'm taking the ball by the horns. I'm sorting it out.
Yeah, fine. Fair enough. And so I feel like you have a really great, happy, healthy relationship with training, and that it does really positive things for you.
Yeah, it really does. You're absolutely right. I miss running. I can't road run any longer, but I'm a bike nose now, so I'm addicted to cycling.
Oh my God, are you?
Love it.
I just can't get into it.
What, on the road or in the gym?
Both. I just can't. On the road, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And in the gym, I'm like, this is so hard. It's so funny because like when it comes to like actual resistance training, I'm pretty savage. When it comes to difficult cardio, like doing HIIT classes, I'm like, I should probably leave now. This is really hard.
Do you not do HIIT? Do you do HIIT?
Not anymore. Not anymore. And I really try. But I agree with you, though. I think in my industry, especially in the weightlifting industry, there's this kind of big, I don't know, I guess false dichotomy of like, do you lift weights or do you do cardio? And it's like, you should probably do a bit of both.
You should probably do a bit of both.
I think it's a really unfortunate side effect of my industry is like that, because I think so many women for so long thought that they should only really be doing cardio, that then the women that discovered that they could and should be lifting weights then look down on those women like, you just haven't learned yet. And it's like, well, there is a time and a place for both. Also, and I'm a really big fan of that.
Stop being so bloody judgmental. Like, can't we just get our hands around everyone and say, you want to start exercising? It doesn't matter what it looks like. Let's just do it. I often say to people on Instagram, they're like, how do you fit it in? Like, classic case in point this morning, there was no time for me to get, after the school run, there was no time for me to get to the gym. So I knew that I had 25 minutes. I took a mat outside. I had a weight with me and I did a 25-minute low impact, no equipment needed really, and I just did it in the garden. And I say that to people, I'm like, you get the kids to do it. You can do it in your sitting room. You can, if you haven't got a garden, you can do it on your balcony. If you haven't got any outside space, go to the park. There are things that you can do, whatever it is, or just go for a bloody walk. Yeah, just go for a walk. I say this all the time. I have clients that I'm going on holiday and I'm not going to have access to a gym. What do I do? And I'm like, I've given you home body weight workouts for a reason. Just go, even if you just move through it. I do actually think there's this big misconception with it, especially like body weighted workouts, that you have to like smash through it and do like 1,000 burpees till you're sick in a bin. And it's like, you can actually just walk through it really slowly. Just move your body. That's the whole point of it. Move your body. And elements will actually be harder if you go slow, and elements might be easier. But all I care about as a coach is just go and move your body, even if you're just going for a walk. I'm like, okay, just go for a half an hour walk. That's it. And how lucky we are in a way to live in the world, 2023, where we can do that 100%. Now. But also with Instagram, the way that it is, there are so many amazing workouts that you can find online or through social media that take you 20 minutes to get through, and they, brilliant. You're done. I do think things like yoga, though, that has to be brought in, because I am characteristically like, go out and smash yourself into 1,000 pieces. And actually since the recent injury, I've had to really reframe that, and actually just doing more kind of movement and stretches, Pilates based stuff has been really great for me. Oh, massively. Postnatally changed again. James needs to do it because he's had back surgery, and he needs to really strengthen his core. So we're looking into it. We're looking into couples Pilates. You and Dyson come with us if you want. Couples Pilates? Do you want to do it with us? Yeah. You can do it. You can book like quartet classes. Is it like Couples Retreat, the movie? No, can you imagine? It's such a good film. I fucking love that film. No, I think the instructor, I think she's the girl who I've looked at, she does like, it's called a quartet class, and she's like, obviously she's really good looking. I mean, what is this, like Pilates like just attracts like the most beautiful women? I'm like, what even is going on? Okay, right, let's move on from this. Talk to me about the knee, talk to me about your surgery, talk to me about your recovery and where you're at now. Oh God. Yeah, tell everyone what happened. Can I just tell you that I love skiing more than anything else in the entire world? It's up there. loving skiing more than I love my husband. So let's put it right up there. Been doing it since I was 4 years old. Yeah. It's my favourite thing to do. There was a big group of us in February. We go every year for half term. The kids are in ski school. I'm like having the time of my life.
Bombing it down a slope.
50 miles an hour. And we saw this woman on the blood wagon in the morning. We were going up on the gondola and I said, oh God, it's so sad, isn't it, when you see someone on the blood wagon? And I remember looking at her and thinking, God, what's she done? That looks really bad. Anyway, that's not going to be me. Genuinely, that moment happened. We went to Courmayeur for the day. We were skiing. We stopped off, had lunch. I wasn't a boozy lunch. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. We were coming down. We'd had like 6 hours, end of day 3. And we were not even, I mean, it wasn't even that technically that difficult, as in like it wasn't a black run.
No, I was going to say,
No, went from light to dark, a tiny lip, 40 miles an hour. I had the biggest crash of my life.
What happened?
Hit some ice, lost control completely. The conditions weren't great, as in it was just icy and like there wasn't that much snow. And my whole body spun. My knee and ski ended up in the opposite directions. And there was this...
No, stop.
Anyway, out cold, woke up screaming. Guess what I was screaming? I fucked it. I fucked it. Holding onto my knee because I knew I'd done some serious damage. It was my weak knee anyway.
Yeah.
So I like dragged myself to the side of the slope, and then Dozza arrives, our other friends arrived, and this lovely French couple that were like, you know what you need? You need a tequila. Has anyone got any tequila? And I was thinking,
very good French accent.
I need a blood wagon, not a tequila.
I mean, I'd take both at this point.
Give me a shot.
I'll take some drugs, some tequila, and the blood wagon.
I just couldn't believe it.
In that order.
I just couldn't believe it. Anyway, we're laughing now. Anyway, the blood wagon came. They took me down the mountain. I went to hospital. Surgeon said he did that Latchman's test.
Yeah.
That's what it's called?
Yeah.
And he went, 100% you've done your ACL. And I said, no, it's not. It's meniscus. He said, no, it's not. And I said, well, you haven't done a scan, so give me a brace. I'm going back out. And he said, you can't ski.
No.
So obviously, I couldn't ski.
No.
And then spent the next 3 days in resort absolutely shit-faced because I was like, well, if I can't ski, I'm going to get drunk.
Yeah,
meeting up with other people that had done injuries. Anyone I saw with a brace, I was like, excusez-moi, vous voulez un bière? And then they'd come over and be like...
Did you speak French, though?
Yeah.
How did I not know that you speak French? I was like, no wonder your accent's so bloody good.
Speak French.
Very good, very sexy.
Thank you.
That dog enjoys that.
He does. And then... Yeah, anyway, long story short, again, it was my ACL when I got back home. So
and so how have you found recovery? Because I know mentally that's really tough for people like you and me who are really active.
I think there was a reason that I did it. So I've now realised that the world was telling me to slow down. I needed to slow down and I needed to put some healing back into my body again and look after myself, because I'd been looking after my mum, I'd been looking after my marriage, I'd been looking after my children. It was about me. But the initial part, they took a piece of hamstring and made a new ligament at the back of the knee, and they took all my meniscus out, so I'm now without meniscus because the damage was so savage. So recovery's been slow. I'm 12 weeks post-surgery today, and I'm now doing 10k on the bike. Nice. Squatting, lunging, pull-ups.
It's amazing that you're squatting 12 weeks post ACL surgery. I know. That's incredible.
Jumping.
And I said this to you on the Zoom call. I said, I think you might be able to do it like a 12-week recovery. And you were like, no.
Yes, you said that to me.
I did. And Doris was like, no. James was like, no. I was like, no, I'm sure I've heard of that happening before. I've heard of really, and it's not common, but it happens.
Yeah.
People who rehab properly, who are able to do some semblance of real exercise 12 weeks post-surgery. And you fucking did it. And I knew you would do it.
You did say that.
You are that sporty, athletic, focused person, like, who's also not going to fuck around. You're going to take care of your rehab. That's the difference. Like, when they tell you, and I had this postnatally as well, like when they tell you, no, you cannot exercise for 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 12, you have to listen to them. Yeah. You have to do the rehab work, or you're only going to prolong your recovery, or you're just going to have a secondary injury. Do it properly. And that's why, because you nailed it.
And also well, thank you for saying that. And I really did take it seriously. But anybody listening that is heading for surgery, the best advice that I can give you is prehab. The prehab, which was 4 weeks for me, was key. I got my right leg as strong as it's ever been. I was single leg squatting. I was doing bench presses. I basically turned it into a rock. Yeah. And then
to build muscle
because then I didn't actually get that much muscle wastage. No. I got myself a Compex. I got myself a Physio Lab. Yeah. Those were like two pieces of key kit for me.
Compex, man, they're so expensive.
No, I got one on eBay for 120 quid.
Shut up, did
Yeah.
you? Oh
Yeah,
my
get
God,
yourself
don't tell James.
Second-hand complex.
So much money on complex. He lost one. He had to buy another one a couple of years ago, and he was like, he still talks about it now. He did not spend that money
Shop
on
around,
it.
guys. Shop around. Get
Yeah.
yourself onto eBay. They've got them all. I'll sell you mine because I'm done with mine now.
So good, though. It's anything you can do.
And then obviously physio afterwards. My physio, Louise Alwyn, is incredible, and I had a really good surgeon. And I feel really great. So I'm jumping this week, plyometrics, all that sort of stuff's back. I reckon I'll be jogging in 3 weeks.
See, this is why I got Zoe on the podcast. I mean, listen, she's been through a lot, as you've heard, some of it quite traumatic stuff. And she's like, I say this all the time, like Tarzan, swung from vine to vine, like, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? Until she landed on her wooden platform. Well, this analogy's getting out of hand. Yeah, it's getting way out of hand. And she landed on her feet, and she embraces the good days. She embraces what she's been through and what she's come out of. And I really want people to, because I know that it can be really hard going through the menopause. I mean, I don't know from experience, but I know from coaching the clients that I coach. I know that it can be really hard when you're struggling with an eating disorder. I know that it can be really hard when you're injured and you've got a rehab and you're somebody whose mental health, not just physical health, is so dependent on exercise. One step at a time, one vine at a time, and you will land on your feet and you will celebrate when you get there. Zoe, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's such an incredible interview, and I'm so happy. I think you're going to help so many women listening to this. I just cannot thank you enough for your time. I know you're busy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. What a beautiful conversation.
And it's lovely, and I've really, really enjoyed it. Guys, if you like this episode or any episode of the podcast, please share it on social media. Like, subscribe, leave a review. Everything really, really helps. And we will see you next week for another episode of the podcast.